We all face things in life that try to push us down. It's easy to lose our passion and think that's the way it's always going to be. But God didn't create you to be overcome. He created you as an overcomer. He put something in your spirit called bounce back. Bounce back means when you get knocked down, you don't stay down. There's a force breathing in your direction, making things happen that you couldn't make happen, giving you strength that you didn't have. It causes you to rise up. And because you have bounced back, that difficulty cannot defeat you. It may hold you back temporarily, but it's just a matter of time before you rise back up. And you may have things coming against you now. Thoughts tell you you'll never get well. This pandemic has ruined your finances. You'll always struggle with this addiction. Don't believe those lies. You may be down, but that is not your final destination. God is saying, get ready to rise. Get ready for favor. Get ready for breakthroughs. Get ready for healing. What was meant for your harm, God is turning to your advantage. Micah said, rejoice not over me, my enemies, when I fall, for I shall arise. He wasn't complaining about the trouble. He wasn't discouraged over being knocked down. He understood this principle, that there was bounce back in his spirit. In the middle of the difficulty, he was speaking victory. If you're going to come out of that challenge, you have to do like Micah. This problem didn't come to stay, it came to pass. God being for me is more than the world being against me. I shall arise. When you say that, forces of darkness tremble. When you declare, I shall arise, angels go to work. No more, it's never going to change. My business will never make it. My child's never going to get back on course. Zip that up. If you talk defeat, you're going to have defeat. Say with Micah, yes, I've had difficulties. I'm not denying the problem, not acting like it doesn't exist. All I'm saying is I'm not staying here. I shall arise. I will see God's goodness. My latter days will be better than my former days. God hasn't brought you this far to leave you. He won't let you get in a problem that He can't get you out of. And that person that walked out on you, they didn't stop your destiny. Quit giving them that much power, thinking that they ruined your life. God has somebody better coming. David said, God lifted me out of the pit and set my feet on a rock. You may be in a pit, so to speak. You don't see how you could get out. The good news is you don't have to get out by yourself. The Most High God is about to lift you out. He's about to free you from that addiction. He's about to turn the medical report around. He's about to open new doors, bring new opportunities, new relationships. That pit is not your destiny. Get ready to rise. Paul said, the same Spirit that raised Christ from the dead lives on the inside of you. The forces of darkness did their best to stop Jesus, but they couldn't keep Him from rising. That tells me nothing you face can keep you from your purpose. No pandemic, no sickness, no addiction. The enemy may have done his best, but his best will never be enough. A few years back, we had a big hurricane here in Houston. I noticed all the different kind of trees that were blown down. Huge oak trees, 3 or 4 feet around. I saw pine trees over 100 feet tall laying in yard after yard. Big trees, small trees, none of them could withstand the hurricane force winds. There was only one type of tree that wasn't blown down. It was the palm tree. It's because God designed the palm to withstand the storm. Unlike the other trees, the palm is able to bend so it doesn't break. A certain kind of palm can bend all the way over to where the top is almost touching the ground. During a hurricane, it may stay that way for 3 or 4 hours, all bent over, looks like it's done. But when the wind dies down, the storm is over, it stands right back up to where it was before. All these other trees down on the ground, what's the difference? God put bounce back in the palm tree. It may get pushed over, but it's only temporary. Psalm 92 says, the righteous will flourish like a palm tree. The reason God chose a palm tree, not oaks or pines, is He knew we would go through storms. He knew things would try to push us down and keep us from our destiny. So He said, I'm going to make you like a palm. I'm going to put bounce back in your spirit. And you may go through difficulties, a loss, a disappointment, but at some point the winds will stop, the storm will pass, and like that palm, you'll come right back up again. You may be bent over right now. You're facing challenges. Thoughts are telling you it's never going to work out. No, get ready to rise. You have bounce back in your spirit. When that storm is over, you're not going to be laying down, beat up. You're going to rise up healthy, blessed, prosperous. You're not going to look like what you've been through. Nobody is going to be able to tell that you even had that difficulty. What I love about God is He doesn't just bring you through the storm, He makes the enemy pay for bringing the trouble. When the palm tree is bent over during the hurricane, you would think that was damaging the tree and making it weaker. But research shows just the opposite. When the tree is being pushed over and stretched by the strong winds, that's strengthening the root system, giving it new opportunities for growth. When the palm tree straightens back up after the storm, it's actually stronger than it was before. And when you come out of that storm, when you straighten back up, you're not going to be the same. You're going to be stronger, healthier, better off, ready for new growth. When you're in difficult times, you need to remind yourself, I may bend, but I'm not going to break. God won't let you face anything that will be too much for you to handle. And things may be coming against you, but know this, down is not your destiny. Defeat is not how your story ends. Sickness, trouble, not having enough is not permanent. I believe even now, those winds are starting to subside. Forces that have hindered you are being broken. Powers of darkness are being pushed back. You're about to see breakthroughs, freedom, joy, victory. Micah chapter 7, Micah lists all these negative things that have happened. He talked about how he was overwhelmed with sorrow, how he'd gone through bad breaks. If he would have stopped there, we wouldn't be reading about him. He went on to say in verse 7, but as for me, I'm not giving up. I'm sticking around to see what God is going to do. I know He will make things right. He had this attitude of faith. I've come too far to stop now. He was expecting God to turn it around. That's why he said in the next verse, don't rejoice when I fall, I shall arise. But sometimes we've been in the storm so long, we've forgotten what it's like to be standing back up. The enemy would love to convince us to settle for being bent over, living in dysfunction, bitter over who hurt us, thinking we'll never be happy again. We need to do like Micah. Yes, I've had some bad breaks. Yes, life has thrown me some curves, but I'm not giving up on my dreams. I'm not settling for mediocrity. I'm sticking around to see what God is going to do. I know He's going to make things right. Don't get talked out of your dreams. Don't let the delays, the unfair childhood, the unexpected storm convince you that you've seen your best days. God is up to something. And what looks like a setback is all a part of His plan. He may not have sent the difficulty, but He wouldn't have allowed it if it was going to keep you from your destiny. And if you'll have this attitude of faith, God will make things right in your life. He will restore what the enemy tried to steal. He'll pay you back for the wrongs. He'll open doors that you couldn't open. He will get you to your destiny. In Genesis 37, Joseph was a teenager. God gave him a dream that he would be in leadership. He would have great influence. He had many older brothers, but he was the favorite son of their father, Jacob. Because he was born later in life, Jacob treated him differently. He even had them make Joseph a special robe of many colors. I'm sure Joseph was proud of that robe, made him stand out, gave him prestige. But his brothers were jealous of Joseph. They didn't like the special treatment. They didn't like the fact that he had these dreams and that he thought he was going to do something great. One day his father asked him to travel to another city to check on his brothers. They were out working in a field. When they saw Joseph coming from a distance wearing that colorful robe, they thought, this is our big chance to get rid of Joseph. They took the robe off of him and threw him into a pit. They were going to put blood on his robe and tell their father that he had been eaten by a wild animal. But about that time, a caravan of Ishmaelites came passing by. And the brothers decided to sell Joseph as a slave instead of leaving him to die in the pit. It's interesting how God will always have the right people show up at the right time. That caravan had been traveling for months. They left long before Joseph went to check on his brothers. But God has everything figured out. He knows what you're going to need, when you're going to need it, who's going to need to be there. You don't have to worry. God has it all lined up. He's going to get you to your destiny. People can't stop you. A bad break, injustice, God is ordering your steps. He's not only in control of your life, He's in control of the circumstances around you. Now Joseph was no longer the favorite son, wearing the colorful robe. He was a slave in a foreign country, working for a man named Potiphar. Year after year went by. Joseph kept doing the right thing, being good to people that weren't good to him. I can imagine many nights he thought about home, about that robe he used to have and what that meant. Tears would fill his eyes. And thoughts would whisper, it's not fair. You'll never accomplish your dreams. You'll never see your father again. You'll never have that robe of many colors. But deep down, I can hear Joseph praying, Father, thank you that what you started in my life, you will finish. I don't see a way, but I know you have a way. I may be down, but I believe I will rise again, that what you promised me will come to pass. 13 years after Joseph was thrown into that pit, the Pharaoh had a dream. He didn't know what it meant. Joseph was in prison. Someone remembered that he could interpret dreams. They called him in. He told the Pharaoh what the dream meant, how it had to do with the food supply, and how they needed to store up grain and get everything prepared for a famine. The Pharaoh was so impressed with Joseph, his advisors were discussing who should be appointed for this new position. Pharaoh told them no one could do it better than Joseph. He put Joseph in charge of the whole nation. He said in verse 44, no one will move hand or foot in all of Egypt without your approval. He had his staff bring a royal robe and put it on Joseph. He took off his prison clothes, took off his slave clothes, and he put on this robe of honor, robe of influence, robe of authority. Imagine now Joseph thinking back about the robe that his brothers took away from him, the robe that represented favor. He was disappointed at the time. He wanted it back. It didn't seem fair, but now he realized without losing the robe of many colors, he would have never had the robe of authority, that robe that said, I'm in charge of a nation. If you knew what God has in store for you, you wouldn't be discouraged over the robe of many colors that you lost, that job that didn't work out, the person that walked away, the loan that didn't go through. If you could see the robe of authority that's coming, the robe of influence, the robe of abundance, the robe of unprecedented favor, you wouldn't be bitter over who hurt you, upset over the time in the pit, frustrated by what you lost. What God has in your future is so amazing, you will never complain about your past. You may be down now, but like Joseph, get ready to rise. Favor is coming like you've never seen. God is about to do something unusual, something uncommon, something that catapults you to a new level. Your story doesn't end with a robe of many colors that you lost. Doesn't end with a dream that didn't work out, a relationship that didn't make it, a business that went down. The robe of many colors was simply foreshadowing what God is about to do. It was supposed to be temporary. Wasn't supposed to last. If the door closed, accept it and move on. Don't spend your life wishing you had the robe of many colors back when God has something so much better in your future. Don't go around bitter because someone threw you into a pit, someone betrayed you, You were cheated in a business deal. God saw it. He wouldn't have let them take the colorful robe. He wouldn't have let that bad break happen if it was going to keep you from your destiny. God can cause opportunity to find you. He has unexpected blessings to where suddenly you meet the right person. Suddenly your health improves. Suddenly you're able to pay your house off. What happened? You came into a shift. God breathed in your direction. What used to be a struggle is not a struggle anymore. What should have taken years happened in a fraction of the time. Now you may feel like you're stuck today. You could never accomplish a dream, never overcome a problem. It's been too long. You've missed too many opportunities. God is saying, no, get ready. I'm about to shift things. Doors are going to open for you that have not opened in the past. The people that were against you are going to suddenly change their mind and be for you. That problem that's dogged you for years, looked like it'd never change, is going to suddenly turn around. This is the year of the shift. Because you've honored God, He's going to put you in a position that you could have never attained on your own. It's not just your education, not just your talent or the family you come from. It's the hand of God shifting you to a new level of your destiny. And I'm not just trying to make you feel good today. I'm prophesying a shift is coming. A shift in your health, a shift in your finances, a shift in a relationship. It may not look like it in the natural, but we serve a supernatural God. He's about to breathe in your direction in a new way. The enemies you've seen in the past, you will see no more. The addictions, bad habits that are holding you back are being broken, and God's favor is being released in a new way. It's going to propel you forward. What should have taken you 40 years to accomplish, God's going to do in a split second. The shift is acceleration. The shift is going beyond where you could go on your own. The shift is overcoming what a medical report says is impossible. The shift is seeing that wayward child change his mind and get back on the right course. The shift is having your best year when the circumstances say you should have a down year. The shift is seeing Jehovah Jireh, the Lord our provider, not only provide, but do exceedingly abundantly above and beyond. Now our attitude should be, God, I'm ready. I'm taking the limits off of you. I'm enlarging my vision. I may not see a way, but I know you have a way. I declare I'm coming into a shift. Now those doors that were closed in the past, you need to go check again. Things have shifted. The dream you had to start a new business, to go back to college, to take that mission trip, may not have happened the first time, but that's okay. It's prepared you for this time. Don't give up on it. It's a new day. Things have shifted. Pursue it again. When God breathes in your direction, people change their mind. Closed doors suddenly open. The no's turn into yeses. The not nows into it's your time. I know a man that had been out of work for over 3 years. He's in construction management. For 25 years, he had a very good position at a successful company. But a few years ago, when the economy went down and building tapered off, his company didn't have any business and had to let him go. He went to interview after interview, month after month, no success. He ended up taking a much lower level position in a small city and had to travel a couple of hours every day to work. It's taken a toll on his health, his marriage, his savings. Looked like it'd never change. But about 6 months ago, his former boss called and said, hey, are you ready to go back to work? That company landed the largest contract in their history. He not only got his job back, but all of his benefits were restored. He used to have to travel around the country. Now he gets to stay at home. Plus, they increased his salary significantly. He said, this is exceedingly abundantly above and beyond. What happened? He came into a shift. Suddenly, things changed in his favor. One phone call, one contract, one good break. He went from barely getting by to having more than enough. Now you need to get ready. These shifts are in your future. The Israelites had been in slavery for many years, mistreated by their captors. They were forced to work long hours, not given the proper rest or food. When they didn't meet their quotas, they were beaten with rods. It was very unfair. But one day, through a series of events, God supernaturally brought them out. As they were leaving, the Scripture says God caused them to have favor with their enemies. Notice, God caused them to have favor. The same people that had oppressed them for years, the same ones that had pushed them down and mistreated them, suddenly changed their mind. They said, in effect, we've decided that we like you now. We want to be good to you. On their way out, they gave the Israelites their gold, silver, and jewels. What happened? The Israelites came into a shift. God changed their enemy's mind. Proverbs says that God can turn the heart of a king. We may not be able to change people's mind, but God can. He controls the whole universe. Now, you may have people in your life like this, people that don't like you, boss that's hard to get along with, family member that's disrespectful. It's easy to get discouraged and think, this is always going to be this way. They're always going to be against me. No, stay in faith. God has a shift coming. God knows how to cause them to like you. God can cause them to see you in a new light. They may have been against you year after year, but when God shifts things, they'll go out of their way to be good to you. Instead of hindering you, they'll help you. Bottom line, God will not allow any person to keep you from your destiny. They may be bigger, stronger, more powerful, but God knows how to shift things around and get you to where you're supposed to be. I have a friend that never really liked his supervisor. Nobody at the company did. This supervisor was very hard to get along with and condescending. He'd been a source of frustration year after year. The supervisor was a young man, looked like he could be at the company 20, 30 years. And my friend has a good attitude, but deep down, he thought this is going to be a pain to put up with this guy. But one morning, he got to work and everything seemed like normal, but the management called a staff meeting and told how this supervisor's wife got transferred to another state, and he had just resigned and was no longer with the company. Half the staff fell on their knees and began to thank God. What happened? A divine shift. Suddenly, God changed things. Now, quit worrying about the people that are trying to hold you back. God knows how to move the wrong people out of your life and bring the right people in. And even if God doesn't move them, it says in Psalms, you can run through a troop and leap over a wall. God can cause you to go over them or around them or even through them, but God is going to get you to where you're supposed to be. Now, some of you feel like you're too far back. The obstacles are too big. You could never really get ahead. No, all God has to do is breathe in your direction. One simple shift can take you from the back to the front. One good break, one idea, one divine connection. Years ago, I was at an amusement park with our two children, and we were in line for a very popular ride. At first, it was all single file, but when you got close to the front, you went into this little building about 20 feet by 20 feet and waited. We were the first ones in this new batch, first ones into the building, and so we walked all the way to the front by these big double doors and waited. But other people began to come in. They were excited about getting on the ride, and they started maneuvering their way in front of us. And I'm more laid back and easygoing. I wasn't going to get in there and try to fight for our position. We ended up at the very back of the room, right where we came in. A few minutes, a young lady came out that worked at the park, and she gave instructions and told what was going to go on. Then she said, okay, we're ready to go. Turn around and go back out the same doors you came in. I wanted to say, nanny, nanny, boo, boo. But in the same way, all God has to do is shift the direction, and you'll go from the back up to the front. The truth is, You are one shift from seeing a dream come to pass. One shift from paying your house off. One shift from seeing your health improve. One shift from meeting the right person. Hey, you say, Joel, you're just getting people's hopes up. You're right. You can't have faith if you don't first have hope. When you go out with the attitude, God, I believe things are shifting in my favor this year. That's not just being positive, that's your faith being released. God says to the angels, listen to what they're saying. They believe I'm all powerful. They believe I can do the impossible. Let me move this person out of the way. Let me open up this new door. Let me line up this new relationship. Let me turn that negative situation around. It says in Isaiah that this is God's year to act. Not next year, not 5 years, not in the sweet by and by. This is the year God's going to shift things in your favor. He's getting it all lined up. What you could not make happen on your own, God is going to cause you to accomplish. It's going to be bigger than you thought. It's going to happen quicker than you imagined. And it's going to be more rewarding than you ever dreamed of. Genesis chapter 48. There's a story of when Jacob was an old man, very close to death. His son Joseph came to visit him and say his goodbyes. He and his father were very close. Joseph was Jacob's favorite child. He was the youngest son, the one that Jacob gave the coat of many colors to, if you remember. At one point, Jacob thought Joseph was dead, lived very sadly, until he found out indeed Joseph was alive and living in Egypt. They reunited, and now Jacob, the father, was about to pass. Joseph was standing before him with his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, Jacob's grandsons. Jacob said, Joseph, I'm going to bless your sons as if they were my own children. The right hand in those days always gave the greatest blessing. It belonged to the firstborn son. That was the tradition. So Joseph put his oldest son, Manasseh, in front of Jacob's right hand, and his younger son, Ephraim, in front of his left. Jacob was nearly blind. He couldn't see. When he went to give the blessing, Jacob crossed his hands and put his right hand on the younger son, Ephraim, and his left hand on Manasseh, the older son. Joseph said, no, Dad, you can't see. I had them lined up. I put Manasseh in front of your right hand. He deserves it. Give him the greater blessing. Jacob said something very interesting. It gives us insight into our God. He said, no, Joseph, I've crossed my hands on purpose. Ephraim may have come second. He may have been in the back. He doesn't deserve it, didn't qualify for it. He's not next in line, but I'm shifting him to a new position. I'm taking him from the back up to the front. I'm going to give him what he doesn't deserve. That's the way our God is. He has shifts in your future that will put you at a position that you didn't earn, you didn't qualify for, you weren't next in line, you didn't have seniority. But God, just like He did with Ephraim, is going to cross His hands and say, I'm going to move them up from the back to the front. From not being qualified to suddenly being qualified. From being looked down on, disrespected, to being honored and seen with influence and credibility. In fact, some people will be bothered by it. They think that's not fair. I worked harder, I have more seniority, but the fact is, it's just the goodness of God. God said because you honor Him, He would give you houses that you didn't have to build. You would reap from vineyards that you did not plant. That's God crossing His hands, giving us what should have taken years to earn. Mark chapter 6, Jesus was with His disciples, and so many people were crowding around. He told them to get in the boat so they could have some time alone. Verse 32 says, they departed to a desert place. People saw where they were heading. When they arrived, there were thousands of people waiting for them. Jesus began to teach them. Late in the day, the disciples said, Jesus, it's almost night. We're out here in the desert. There's nothing to eat. Send the people home. Jesus said, you feed them. They said, with what? We're in the desert. We don't have food for all these people. Jesus asked them for what they had. They gave Him 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread. Verse 39 says, Jesus told the crowd to sit down in groups on the green grass. 3 times in this passage, it says they were in a desert place. Now he's telling them to sit on green grass. The people were tired, hot, hungry. Jesus hadn't multiplied the food yet. They hadn't received the miracle. But while they were waiting, God gave them grass in the desert. He made the hard places easier. He didn't stop them from going into the desert. He didn't keep them from the heat, but He did lighten the load. We all go through desert places in life. Problems that should overwhelm us, giants that should defeat us, bad breaks that should make us bitter. But somehow in the midst of these challenges, there's a force sustaining us. We feel strength that we didn't have, courage to keep moving forward, grace to endure. We look back and think, how did I make it through the loss of my loved one? How did I overcome that sickness? How did I raise that child that was so difficult? It was God giving you grass in the desert, God making the hard places easier. Without His grace, we would have gone under. Without His favor, that sickness would have defeated you. Without Him breathing in your direction, you wouldn't have made it through that breakup. He didn't stop the trouble, but He did keep the trouble from stopping you. You could have fallen apart. You could have had a nervous breakdown, gotten bitter, but God gave you green grass in the desert. He sustained you. When you could have been overwhelmed, He stepped in and lightened the load. That's why that person showed up at just the right time to help you. It wasn't a lucky break, it was grass in the desert. That's why you had the strength to take that treatment. When you should have been discouraged, worn out, it was grass in the desert. That's why this pandemic hasn't defeated you. You could be stressed out, not able to make it, but there's grass in the desert. God hasn't changed it all yet. You haven't seen the promise come to pass. You're still believing for the healing, the promotion, the spouse. The good news is, while you're waiting, God is making your hard places easier. You may not be able to tell it, but if it wasn't for the goodness of God, that sickness would have taken you out. Without His favor, that trouble would have overwhelmed you. Without His mercy, that addiction would have defeated you. No matter what you go through, an illness, a divorce, a betrayal, because you're a child of the Most High God, there's going to be green grass in the desert. It's not going to overwhelm you. It's not going to be too much. God is going to do things that don't make sense. He's going to give you strength that you can't explain, courage that you didn't know you had, favor that you didn't see coming. You may be in a desert place now. The right attitude is, Lord, I want to thank You for the green grass. Thank You for sustaining me. Thank You for what didn't take me out. Thank You that I'm still standing. How could Joseph keep a good attitude after all the negative things that happened to him? He was betrayed by his brothers, thrown into a pit. They were going to leave him there to die, but they ended up selling him as a slave. He could have been bitter, angry, trying to get revenge, but God gave him grass in the desert. He made the hard places easier. And despite all the injustice, despite his world being turned upside down, Joseph kept being his best, doing the right thing. When he faced temptation, the owner's wife tried to seduce him. Joseph could have thought, I have nothing to lose. These people have done me wrong. He could have let his guard down and compromised, but there was grass in the desert. Joseph stayed faithful, loyal, committed. You don't know how God is working in your life right now. Where did you get the strength to withstand the temptation? How are you able to keep a good attitude when negative things have happened? How can you still be strong and do the right thing with these challenges you're up against? It's not just your will, your determination. It's God giving you grass in the desert. He's not letting that trouble overwhelm you. He's not letting that bad break defeat you. The scripture says you'll never face anything that you can't handle. If it was too much, if it was going to stop your destiny, God wouldn't have allowed it. Like Joseph, you may be in a desert place. Life has thrown you a curve. You're dealing with things that you never saw coming, people that did you wrong, a sickness that's not improving, your business went down. You don't see how you can go on, God is about to make your hard places easier. You're going to feel a strength that you've never felt. The right people, divine connections are headed your way. God is going to get you to where you're supposed to be. The desert is not your destiny. That barren place, the disappointment, the loss is not how your story ends. The desert is temporary. The trouble is temporary. The depression, it's only temporary. Joseph ended up the prime minister of Egypt. He came out of the desert into his promised land. We don't like the desert, but the desert was necessary. Without the opposition, without the betrayals, the disappointments, Joseph would have never made it to his destiny. And God won't stop the desert. He never promised we wouldn't have difficulties, but He did promise He'll give you grass in the desert. He'll make your hard places easier. Now quit telling yourself that you can't handle it. It's too much. I'll never beat this cancer. I'll never raise these children. This pandemic is going to ruin my business. You're defeating yourself. Victory starts in our thinking. The scripture says to take hold of His strength. Try a different approach. Lord, thank you for the grass in the desert. Thank you that I can do all things through Christ. Thank you that I'm strong in the Lord. Thank you that you're making my crooked places straight. Thank you that you being for me is more than the world being against me. My father struggled with high blood pressure most of his life. Often the medicine he would take would make him dizzy. And from the TV area, on Sunday mornings, I would come down to put his microphone on from the TV area before the service. Many times he hadn't slept much the night before, and he didn't seem up to par. And I would ask him if he wanted to minister or did he want us to get someone else. He would never think twice. He'd say, yes, I'm ready. He would go out as strong, as anointed, as effective as ever. When he stepped into the pulpit, it was like he was a different person. You couldn't tell anything was wrong. I was so amazed. I thought, how could he do that? I realize now that was God giving him grass in the desert. David said, God makes me to lie down in green pastures. You can be in a desert and God will create a green pasture. In a pandemic, you could be worried, upset, but look at you, strong, confident. You know God is still on the throne. You know He holds victory in store for the upright. You know what's meant for harm, He's turning to your advantage. It's barren all around you, but you're in a green pasture. You have grass in the desert. While others are complaining, talking about how it's not going to work out, you have a song of praise. You're expecting God's favor. You're declaring His promises. When I looked at my father, I didn't see green pastures. All I saw was a desert, barren land, him not feeling well. I didn't see how he could prepare a message, how he could get up and be effective. But God doesn't wait till you get out of the desert. He'll cause you to flourish in the desert. He'll make you prosperous in a barren land. What I couldn't see was in that desert, he had green grass. He had strength to do what he shouldn't be able to do. At 77, my father had to go on dialysis. His kidneys had quit working. Often I would take him to the clinic. He would sit there for 4 hours, 3 times a week. He was used to being able to travel and go places. Now he was tied down. This should have defeated him, should have taken the joy and victory out of his life. But God takes things that should be disheartening, defeating, unbearable, and He gives you the grace to keep going strong. Even though he was on dialysis, he never missed ministering on a Sunday morning. I never heard him complain. He didn't talk about how bad it was. He was constantly thanking God for His goodness. That didn't make sense. He was in the desert, on dialysis, not able to travel. But God knows how to make your hard places easier. He may not keep you out of the desert, but He will give you grass in the desert. He'll give you the grace to go through whatever comes your way. You may be up against things that seem like they're too much to handle, too difficult, too unfair. You don't have the strength, the energy, the faith. Don't worry, there's grass in that desert. God has a green pasture for wherever He takes you. Going through a divorce, yes, that's hard, but there's grass in that desert. You're going to feel strength that you've never felt. Taking that treatment, it should wipe you out, But even in the barren place, you're going to discover a green pasture. God has already prepared it for you. Or raising that special needs child. It would be too much for others, but not you. There's grass in that desert. I have a friend that was married to a professional football player, big, strong man that served in the military. Later in life, he developed diabetes and ended up losing both of his legs. This lady took care of him like a king. She would get up at 4 in the morning before she went to work and get him dressed and bathed. She's a large woman. She would pick him up out of the bed and physically carry him around the house month after month, year after year. Eventually, he went to be with the Lord. How could she have that kind of strength, that kind of stamina, that kind of commitment? That was God giving her grass in the desert. You may be doing a hard thing, but you have to know God sees you. You're not in this by yourself. He's about to lighten the load. He's going to make that hard place easier. He has grace for every season. I believe right now, strength is coming into you, fresh vision, fresh anointing. You may be tired, but you're about to get a second wind. You're going to feel God breathing in your direction, bringing dreams back to life, making things happen that you couldn't make happen. You're going to say like her, how did I make it through that difficult time? It was God giving you grass in the desert. You stepped into a green pasture that He already prepared.